County Clerk, Kathy Chroback. As the county clerk, part of her job entails implementing the elections in the county. And she is here tonight to answer any questions you might have about how to participate in the election. If you have any questions that you want to ask Kathy, you can go ahead and ask those questions in the Zoom Q&A. You can find the Q&A at the bottom of the Zoom screen. It's a little box with 2 speech bubbles that says Q&A. You can go ahead, click that, type in your question, and we're going to see it. We're going to try to get to all the questions that everybody has tonight, but if we don't get to the questions, you can follow up with Kathy at the clerk's office at 813 Lincoln Way, Suite 105 in LaPorte, Indiana. All of the answers for tonight's questions are going to be specific to LaPorte County rather than any other county in Indiana. If you do use a chat, please remember to not share any personal information, and please remember to be respectful to both the presenters and other participants. This program is being recorded and will be available on the library's Facebook and YouTube pages after this program ends. Okay, and with that, why don't we start off with some basic information on what are the upcoming deadlines and important dates for the election. Kathy, would you like to speak on that?
I didn't hear your question or your statement.
Oh, sorry. Could you tell us some important dates or deadlines for the questions?
Oh.
Or for the voting, sorry.
So, thank you. Again, thank you for having me. The real #1 important date is this Thursday, the 22nd of October. It's the time and date that applications can be sent in and accepted by my office. It's at the end of the business day, 4 o'clock. So if you want to vote by mail, you have to get your application in by 4 o'clock Thursday evening. It can come in through email and it can come in through fax, and it would be 11:59 p.m. would be a timestamp. The other important date is that all ballots need to be back if you're voting by paper ballot, by noon on election day, November 3rd. They have to be in my office by noon. Now, we get calls that people are standing outside the courthouse wanting to return their ballot because we are closed that day, and we do go and retrieve them. I go to the post office and pick up everything that's at the post office a little after 12. So we were able to bring in all the ballots that were at the post office. I think those are the real 2 critical dates that that really need to, especially the application date, because if you don't get your application in by this Thursday, you're not going to be able to vote by mail. Mm-hmm. We are doing early voting in 4 locations, and it's every day, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, and it is in 4 locations at the county complex, the I call it the Annex Building, the Michigan City at 8th and Wabash, and then down at the Cool Spring former library, and down at Wanata at the town hall. And those are 8 to 4 every day, and the last 2 Saturdays of the month would be the 24th and the 31st were 8 to 3. So people can vote in person. My suggestion would be, if you're going to do that, come early in the morning, and then maybe for about 3:30, because during the middle of the day, the line is kind of long. But most people right now do not want to stand outside, and especially if the weather's not cooperating. So there's no line at 8:30, 8:45.
Okay, so we do have a question. We do have a question. Someone's asking if they can vote at any of those locations.
They can. You do not have to live in any one of those areas. What happens is they are 4 locations across the county. When you come in, you present your ID. They look up your registration in SVRS, which is the voters registration site. And if you're registered, you will pop up in that site, and then there is a number that's attached to your name, which allows you to vote on the early voting. because you don't put your name in. We pull up your application, we give you a number, you go to the machine, and one of the girls that's working in the room will plug that number in. That number identifies you. So if you ever went back, you could go back and see that you voted in Cool Spring on a certain day, a certain time. And it's anybody in the registered in LaPorte County in Indiana. If you're registered in LaPorte County, you can go all 4 locations. It doesn't matter where you live.
Okay, and that's for early voting only, correct?
Correct. On election day, you do have to go to your polling place. And your polling place would be precinct where you're registered. Whatever precinct you are registered at that precinct, and that's where you would have to go vote, which is what we normally do on election day. Early voting is a little different, and now this year we have 4 locations instead of 2, so it makes it a little easier for everybody, and it gives more opportunity for them to vote early.
Okay, we have another question. What is the process for counting early votes and votes by mail in LaPorte County?
Okay, votes by mail are coming in daily. They are matched up to the application that the voter has originally supplied to allow them to get a ballot by mail. They are matched up with the ballot. The morning of election, starting at 6 a.m., and that's state law, we can't open them until 6, but at 6 a.m., they are gathered by precinct. We try to start alphabetical, so we start with Cass County. We have a number of people, and it's Democrat, Republican teams that work together that look at the ballot, look at the application, make sure that the ballot and the application are signed, both of them, that the signatures are somewhat similar. And then if that's the case, then they open up the ballot and they proceed to check to make sure that the ballot is signed by the poll absentee workers in the absentee room. They put their initials on them. The envelope that they're in also has to be signed by the workers in the absentee room, their initials. And then if everything checks out, and there's a printout that we check with it too, because the printouts come through in the morning and it will tell us who sent a ballot back and who didn't. So once that's happened, they separate the ballot from the application. Everything gets stacked in a pile if everything checks out, and it goes to microvote for counting by precinct. And it's not done until after all the polls are closed at the end of the night. They calculate the machine votes first, and then once that's done, they will run the cards after that.
Okay. What health and safety precautions are in place to protect LaPorte County voters and poll workers from COVID-19?
Oh my, we are over an abundance of PPE. In the spring, when everything was closed, including the courthouse, we had shipment of PPE delivered to us by the Secretary of State. She serviced every county in Indiana. We got 3 pallets of gloves, masks, disinfectant spray, sneeze shields, you name it, we had it all. We had disinfectant for the machine, disinfectant for tabletops. We went through a lot of that, but we still had quite a bit of it left. And we got 3 more pallets of shipment about a month ago. We supply all the poll workers with all this that they need. There's instructions that the poll workers get before they go out and work the polls. Same with early voting. The girls that are working in early voting and guys are instructed what to do. I have had comments that we only have 3 machines in the room, that we could have gotten a lot more machines in the room, but we're trying to keep the 6-foot social distancing. So we put 3 machines in the room, everybody's separated. You come in one door, you go out another. The one gal is checking in the voter and filling that name out and that number on that application. And the other gal is going over to the machine and plugging that number in, which is your identification. And then when you're done voting, she goes through and wipes everything down. We have disinfectant, we have wipes, we have cloth, make sure everything's wiped down, the buttons, the machine, everything around it, and the tabletop where you're signing in. I can tell you that in the spring, we really didn't know how this was going to go because nothing was open, and it was at the beginning of all this, and we really weren't sure how anybody was going to receive it. But we didn't have no complaint of anybody being sickened or any worker being sickened or voter, not one single one. And I know we went to extra lengths to make sure, and it took a little bit longer to get people through, but that's what we were challenged with by the Secretary of State to make sure that we did that. And I believe we did it 110%.
Okay. Okay. So what do voters need to bring with them to the in-person polls?
What they need to bring?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The only thing they need to bring to the polling locations on election day is their ID. They need their ID, that's their identification. If they do not have an ID by driver's license or an ID period that identifies them, not necessarily a driver's license, they can go to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, and they are open on election day, and you can get an ID that's good enough just to be able to vote that day. Same for early voting. If you come into early voting, you have to have a driver's license. That's Indiana law. And I think that law was passed maybe 10 years ago. I can't remember exactly, but you cannot vote without an ID.
Okay. So are people eligible to vote by mail if they are worried about COVID-19?
Well, unfortunately, COVID is not a reason. I've had a number of applications come in with COVID on it. In the spring, there was no excuse to vote by mail, but the state reverted back to the old process in the general election. And there are 13 on the application. There are 13 reasons by which you have to check at least one to vote early by mail. Those that are 65 and older, that's easy because anything 65 or over, if you're that age, you can vote. But there are a number of other reasons. If you're handicapped and you're secluded to an area where you are not be able to go and get out, if you're not going to be in town on that day, if you're working 24 hours or 12 hours, they say on the application, because from 6 to 6, you should be able to get out to vote. If you're working from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., that's a reason why you can do that. If you're caring for somebody that's disabled, there's a number of reasons. Unfortunately, COVID is not a reason. It is, I guess folks have used another reason, and I don't really care what that reason is. As long as they check a reason, that's fine with us.
Okay. So going back to what people should take with them to the polls, is there anything that they should not take with them to the polls? Because I know you said that some of the courthouses are early voting locations. Is there anything that they shouldn't take to the courthouses?
You know, there used to be a law that you couldn't bring your cell phone in. That's not the case anymore. With the selfie age, you can come in with your phone and take a selfie of yourself. The only thing that we make sure that you follow is that you don't take a picture of anybody else in the room. People will take a picture of themselves in the voting booth and post it that, I voted, and they're proud of it. But they cannot be anybody else in that picture besides you. So you can bring your phone in. It has to be on silent or vibrate. It cannot be ringing. You cannot be talking on it, but you can have it with you. We ask that you don't bring in anything that would pertain to any candidate, that pertains to voting for a certain candidate by name or by position. We ask that everybody take, a hat or a shirt, turn your shirt inside out, or if you have some cards that are being passed out front of the polling places, please put them in your purse. You can't walk in with those in your hand. We do this because we do not want to appear that we're favoring one candidate over another, and it's not us, it's, but people are offended when that happens. So we usually have somebody at the door that kind of makes sure that people put all their literature away, their hats taken off their head, or their shirts turned inside out. If they have a button or a patch on their, their shirt or sticker, we ask that they take those off. So actually, other than that, you can come in with your, if it's a mother, bring in your 4-year-old daughter or son, showing them the process. You can come in with that, with your son or daughter or somebody. If you come in with your grandmother and you're assisting your grandmother to vote, you just fill out a form that you have assisted this person, and you can do so. Some people need help, especially they can't see the ballot very good or they have trouble pushing the button. That's absolutely legal, but you have to fill out to do that.
Okay. And building on that, if you need help filling out a ballot due to disability or whatever, but you don't have someone that can come with you, can poll workers help you?
No. The only thing that a poll worker can do is in our polling places, we have an equal representation of both the Democrat Party and Republican Party. If somebody has a question and they're at the booth and they're just have a question, it could be a simple question, where's the straight party button, or how do I vote for the Justice School Board? Both a Republican and a Democrat worker have to come up to the voting booth, and then the two of them can assist in an answer. We cannot hit the buttons, we cannot touch anything. Then we do have to fill out the form ourselves that we assisted this voter. But that's absolutely legal as long as the two of us are there and we fill out the form.
Okay. How can people ensure that their mail-in ballot is counted and not thrown out?
You can go on the Indiana, if you've mailed your ballot in, you can go on the indiana.gov election site, Indianapolis, and you can track your ballot. It will tell you if it's been mailed back, it will tell you if we received it and that we have it in house. And people have done that. If every single ballot, this year it's a little different. The state passed a new law that said, and I can't remember, it's been maybe 6 weeks ago, that let's say on election day, we open your ballot and your signature on your application doesn't exactly look like your signature on your ballot, and there's a question. We have to set that aside, and this year with the new law, we have to contact that voter and see if that person can come in and take a look at their ballot, take a look at their application, and make sure that this is they identify themselves as that is their signature. Once that's done, we take the cards and we run them through the counter. We know how many there are. And so the count should come out the way the number that came in to the number that got processed. Okay. Now there could be, because this year's, there's a lag of time there because we may be contacting voters, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they have 8 days to come in and identify their ballot. So, I mean, this could be a little problematic to getting the time, the final totals out. But this is what the state had decided, and so this is what we have to comply with. Normally, the election board will oversee a ballot and application if there's question, or they didn't sign the ballot. If they did not sign the ballot, it cannot be counted. We try to check that before we get that far. Right now, they're coming in and we're matching with the applications, and all the ones that haven't been signed, and there are a lot, people don't sign them, end up in my office, and the election board does contact these people who haven't come in and signed their ballot. So we tried the best that we can to make sure every vote is counted.
Okay, it's great to know. Let's see. Besides the mail, where can someone drop off their mail-in ballot? Are there drop boxes that they can use?
There are not drop boxes in Indiana. It is not allowed in the state of Indiana. The state does not allow drop boxes. We did a little bit, we kind of swayed by that rule a little bit in the spring because nothing was open. The
Mhm.
courthouses weren't open. And so nobody could bring their ballot back. But now everything's open, the courthouse is open. The only way that you can drop off your ballot is one, put it in the mail, if it's a mail ballot, and it has a stamp on it, or two, bring it in personally to the clerk's office. We accept your ballot, make sure it's signed, everything's disinfected with spray. We stamp it in with the date that it comes in, and we put it in the box, and you can watch us deposit it in the box. If they come in the mail, let's say, and it hasn't come through yet, for some reason it's missing, we can track it. And if for some reason they never did get to us at all, there is a Form ABS 5 that they can complete, which says that their ballot was either destroyed or damaged or lost in the mail, and we can issue you a new one. So it gives you an option to do that. But again, there's only two options: put it in the mail or bring it into my office. And you can only bring it into the courthouse, the clerk's office in the Porte, not Michigan City.
Okay, that is very good to know. So are there any exceptions to the voter ID law if you're voting in person?
There is, we hand out a list of, and I don't know, there's probably 20 samples of voter ID samples, those that we do accept, those that we don't. We, accept an ID, we accept driver's license. We've had folks that came in with IDs out of a different state. We don't, and there's a lot of that. We don't take IDs from a different state. This flyer that we pass out to the workers, there's all kinds of examples. If you're a college student, if you're in the military, it tells you if it doesn't have a date, it's not accepted. It has to have an expiration date. There's all kinds of samples that the poll workers go by to determine whether your ID is good or not. So there are, but normally, I would tell you if there's an expiration date on it, normally, in most cases, it's accepted.
Okay. Let's see. We got about 7 minutes left, so maybe time for a couple more questions. If someone is homeless, can they still vote?
A homeless person can vote. They have to file for an application just like everybody else does. Let's say someone is not living anywhere particular but on the street. They would apply for an application if they registered at, I would call a cross street in town. So let's say like out here at the library, Maple and Indiana Avenue. If they're homeless and they're congregating around this area, they would put on their application for registration this corner, this cross street. That would allow them to vote by mail. When they get their ballot, then that's the only problem is if they're voting in person, it's not a problem. But if they're voting by mail, there has got to be a post office where this mail can be delivered to. So if your address is across street, you can't really receive a ballot by mail, but you can vote in person. It doesn't matter if you don't have a street address. You can put across street and you're absolutely welcome to vote.
Okay. So where can people find accurate and up-to-date election results?
The evening of, our IT department is stationed in the absentee room. Darlene, is head of IT. She is updating, I'm going to say probably every 10 minutes, and it's posted online on the county site. I know some people like to come in the courthouse and get copies, and we do pass that out too. But and the press is usually there close by, and they're reporting as the numbers come in. But she is definitely updating, I'd say at least every 10 minutes, maybe less than that. But so it's a constant update, and those numbers are coming in quickly and people want to know. So we are updating everybody. And there is a number of different press organizations that are in-house that are taking down the totals also. And they get copies of the reports as they come out.
Okay. Is there anything that you want voters, either first-time voters or even experienced voters, to know about voting?
If you're voting by mail, please be sure that you fill out your card proper. In your ballot, there is a ballot, paper ballot, that is for your precinct where you live. And it depends in the county where you live as to what commissioner you vote for or what councilman you vote for. But the ballot has numbers on it, and you need to fill out the ballot card and color in the proper number on that card. And then the one thing that is always overlooked, they don't sign the ballot. People have closed up the ballot and forgot to put the ballot card in. Or the husband has signed the wife's card or envelope. And we have tried to accommodate them when they call and say, I signed the wrong one, I signed my wife. We try to accommodate, we get them another envelope so that they can switch it out. And then again, if the ballot is not signed, we're monitoring that daily, and I collect them, and we are contacting the folks that have voted at their hopefully phone number that we have on file for them, so they can come in and sign their ballot. Most important. Two, I would say if you're voting in person, just bring your ID with you. Make sure you have your ID. We do not send somebody out of the polling area without telling you where you need to go to vote. If you're in a wrong polling area, we don't just say, I'm sorry, you're not in this book, you're at a different precinct. We look it up, we tell you where your precinct is, and to make sure that you get over there and able to vote in time before the polls close at 6 o'clock. So those are, I think, the most two important things that I see happen a lot. I think other than that, questions, people have questions, they call. And sometimes some folks don't have a clear understanding of what to do with the ballot card. So we try to explain that. These are people that have never voted by mail before. And right now we have a very large amount of people who have voted by mail. And I did not run the numbers today, but as of Friday, we have sent out, as of Friday morning, about 7,500 ballots in the mail. When normally in 2016, I'm going to take a wild guess, we got like 2,300 back total for the whole time. So it's, right now it's running almost 4 times.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kathy, so much for answering our questions. If anybody has questions that they didn't get answered tonight, they can follow up with Kathy at the clerk's office. Again, her address is 813 Lincoln Way, Suite 105 in LaPorte, Indiana. And is there a good phone number that they can contact you at?
It would be 326-6808, extension 2385. That is my office number, and everybody in the office answers that number. So it doesn't go unanswered. If someone has an issue, we try to follow through with it and answer questions for anybody that would not know or understand what they're supposed to do. So we're answering the phone all day long. So just call 326-6808, extension 2385, and we'll do the best that we can to help answer your question.
Okay, thank you so much. Anybody who is interested in more library events can go look at our library webpage, laportelibrary.org, and go to events to see all our upcoming programming. Everybody have a good night.